Good day. This is Professor Emeritus Stephen Adei. We are continuing our series on leadership for everyone, everywhere. And the sub-theme we have been working on several weeks now has to do with organizational and institutional leadership. This episode and the next one will bring that to conclusion so that we can move on to community leadership and political leadership. Hopefully, in July, we will bring the series to a close and start something exciting and new. So today, I'm concluding the session, this and the next episode on organizational or institutional leadership. Let me say that I would try to be as simple as possible, but also share a few technical steps, because if you are leading an organization, then you have to be aware of certain technical details. Today, I'm looking specifically at the major function of organizational leaders, that is strategic and change management. Strategic and change management as critical, non-delegable responsibilities of organizational leaders. In other words, when it comes to where are we today, where are we going, and how do we get there as an organization, the leader may borrow ideas, consult his subordinates, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the leader, to quote President Truman. And therefore, I want to spend some time first on strategic management and then conclude on change management. Strategic management being the framework, and the change management is the mechanism of effecting it. This strategic management is a core organizational and institutional leadership function, because the leader in the organization is ultimately responsible for setting the direction that the organization must be going. This is the leadership function of choosing and aligning long-term objectives and value. When those who may be familiar with the literature by Michael Porter, Henry Mintzberg, and the rest will know that this is a core function of leadership. What is entailed in strategic management? In a nutshell, the leader is responsible for thinking further, sometimes 5, 10, 20, even 25 years, as I'm doing with an organization I lead currently, because we are thinking intergenerational. Normal worker, even managers, will not be thinking about 25 years. At best, he's thinking about his retirement. And if he has 5 years, that's what his horizon. So the leader thinks far in strategic management. He also thinks lateral. In other words, across the whole spectrum. He cannot afford to think about production today and think about marketing today and think about, human resources management. No. Not only is he thinking about all these things together, which of course will be headed by departmental managers, but how they coalesce or they come together to give a trust as to the direction that he wants to go. So, in strategic management, there's a thought behind it. There's a tendency of starting with mission, this and that, but it's the mindset, thinking far, thinking multi-dimensional. Is so important. If we can do that and be able to give a direction which everybody can see themselves in, you are going to find difficulty in strategic management. So it's long-term thinking, multivariate, and above all, focuses on interrelationships. Because in leading, as I said, the accountant is worried about, the figures, this and all those, but the accountant may want to balance the budget, but he's not thinking about a paradigm shift, which may even change the very basis of his budget. The production manager may be used to producing within the status quo with the machines and everything else, but hey, when technology changes, the whole system may be different. If you're a publishing house, hey, you may end up that instead of having all those people making plays and other things, one machine will do it all. I was actually interestingly talking to someone in charge of hospitality, and he says that in their break-making system, they used to have 8 people. They have a machine which does it twice faster and requires 2 people. Now, the 8 people who were making the bread won't be thinking about, hey, what will happen when there is a machine that requires only 2 people. But the leader will be thinking not only about improving the technology, but also the future of those 8 people. As to 6 of them have to be retrained, are there other places to place them? If not, do you give them a package and the rest? So the first is that strategic management is not so much about tools, but first is an approach to leadership of how to. The reason is that as a leader, you are responsible for paradigm shifts, challenging the status quo, and not so much of disturbing the status quo, but always thinking about, can it be done better, faster, cheaper, more effectively? So your thinking is, to me, the most important, as the old book says, as a man thinketh, so you see. And it's so important because I see many managers not able to transit in the transformation of their mind when they become leaders or heads of organization, so that they become bound with their technical details. An accountant almost looking at the last CD, the engineer about how those things, chemicals are working, whereby maybe the chemicals will not be needed anymore. Once that is said, then there are other, of course, traditional things associated with change, strategic management rather, which would give concrete foundation to this type of managing, which set is apart from traditional management. First, as I say, is the direction. It's not only the destination, thinking far, but how to get there. And that is where vision, mission, and strategic intent becomes very, very central as my second major point in strategic leadership. You need, as a leader, to set a clear, simple direction. In other words, where you are going and the why you are going. And here, let me try to make a distinction. Many people get confused. Which comes first, mission or vision? Of course, depending upon how you define it. But I always want to limit mission to your raison d'etre, what you are there for. I'm there for a school. I'm there as a publisher. I'm there to make the best toothpaste. I'm there to, I exist as an organization. My organization exists for that. Oftentimes, many organizations have failed by what we call mission drift. They start making chocolate and they heard that some people are making coffee, so therefore, hey, there's money there. The next time, oh, no. If I go to China and trade, before long, you are scattered and your organization will be in difficulty. You are to be clear of your mission, to provide focus and clear direction as to why you exist. Of course, in the long run, as an institution, you may vary a little bit of your mission, but actually, your true mission should last for decades. It's the delivery of it. For example, my wife and I founded Ghana Christian International High School. Our mission is to deliver high quality education, high school education, which is founded on moral principles and Christian ideology. Therefore, I am not like Achimota in Fansipim, even Wegehe. They have that, but mine is a Christ-centered delivery of the same education academically, but I'm concerned not only with the mind, but with the spirit and body, total personality. Once you are clear with your raison d'etre, then you will cast a fine vision for 10 years, 20 years, a picture, a clear, simple picture of the state you want to be within a certain period. That is the vision that you must have. And people will be looking to you so that you don't be like Osibisa, heaven knows where we are going, we know we will. No, we are going this way. We are going that far, and we want to achieve that. Over time, you find out that you may do more, but there should be no ambiguity as to your vision as well as your mission. And then you can translate your visions into specific, simple, measurable, attainable goals or milestones to that end, because your vision will require an objective, financial objective, production objective, marketing, and other things. So these are the goals you must set to buttress your vision. However, you can do all these things in a dreamland. You have to deliver it. And that is where you have to have strategy. The strategy basically has to do with making choices. Which markets, which customers, which capabilities you need to strengthen. Strategy is not so much what you are doing day to day, but what will make a difference to deliver your vision and progress your mission. Then, with your strategy, normally when your mission is clear, your vision is simple but measurable and can almost be felt, and you have broken down into goals, then you are able to communicate to your constituencies, the workers, the managers, and then get their buy-in, mobilization of people to buy into a new direction. Is one of the biggest challenges, and it requires communication, explanation, education, so that people come on board. It is when you have done that, then you come to issue of resource allocation to support what you set out to do. And then you have to set in a mechanism which will monitor what you are doing and control, which is what you are doing so that you keep on course over time. For me, this is the most challenging part, because as much as you have to mobilize people, as much as we'll be talking about have a guiding coalition, let a team which support you, in many a time, the strategy is something which the leader must own, and without it, nobody will. Others will contribute, but you must own it, you must live it, you must dream it, it must drive all your actions, or else it's a question of dreaming. I believe that strategic management is the key and core function of organizational leadership. How to implement it is what I will term change management, and it will be the next topic. Probably I may have to do 3 sessions rather than 2. I trust that if you're a leader, you will not shirk your responsibility to challenge the status quo, to formulate strategy, to bring a paradigm shift, which often you alone can do it. Shalom, and may the Lord be with you. We'll meet again, and we will move on from strategic management to change management, which is actually a twin brother or sister because they go together. As usual, I invite you to my YouTube channel, Emeritus Professor Stephen Adei channel, and always at 8:30 a.m. on ZFM 101.9. You will have opportunity of listening to me week after week. And if you miss the live one on ZFM, please go to the YouTube and you will share some of my thoughts. I thank you.